Hello everyone and welcome back to the Dancing Philosopher. I am so sorry for not putting up dancing videos recently, but that's because I've been nursing a foot injury. As you can see, well, you can't really see it, but underneath the ball of my foot, I've had very sharp pains. I basically danced too much, and the doctor basically said I should not dance for 2 weeks. And it's getting better, so very soon I should be able to teach you how to dance with steps as well as dancing without steps, and that should complete our little series. This gives us more time to talk about philosophy. And on that note, I have to, say something about what's been going on with the tragic death of George Floyd. And the question I ask is, well, what does philosophy has to have to say about something as deep and as tragic as that? A lot, actually. Something very deep and fundamental. And what I'm about to tell you might surprise some of you, but I genuinely think it offers genuine progress as far as race relations and discrimination and violence is concerned. This is based on a book I wrote a few years ago that's in the literature page of the website. I think it's called More Thinking or something like that. The book is called Knowing Something, so please check it out. And it was written specifically addressing the problems of uh, conflicts between identities, especially when it becomes something violent. And I will just try to explain a little bit more about that and how that's applied to the tragic death of George Floyd. First thing to say is it is a tragedy, and there's really not much else we can do but grieve with his family and to show solidarity with other persecuted Black Americans, other persecuted peoples all around the world. And one of the good ways of doing this is by just joining, even if it's online, just joining the Black Lives Matter movement, which I've done. And it just shows solidarity. It shows, hey, you're not alone. One thing it doesn't do, however, is solve the problem of hatred and violence. Okay. Where does philosophy come in? The story starts with how did we move from electing Obama the first black president to, getting someone like Trump diametrically opposed, and his notable lack of grief of this death. I mean, it says a lot. And this is something that's obviously not going on in just America, but there's a feeling of hatred and violence that's sweeping the Western world. We call it the rise of the far right. Brexit is meant to be a manifestation of this, and you see the rise of fascist and Nazi movement in Austria and Italy and France, and I mean, it's a phenomenon, right? And so the question I ask is, well, what do we do and how do we solve this? So I was actually right in the thick of it when it came to Brexit, as most people in the UK were, and I noticed something about how we spread information. So I was, by the way, a Remainer, so I didn't want Brexit to happen. And when someone who was for Brexit, outlined their argument, like, oh, we think the European Union is corrupt, or at least certainly its leaders aren't accountable or not representative, or, the problems of immigration haven't really been taken seriously, excuse me. Um, People on our side, usually our reaction was, well, how can you say that? That's just a racist, bigoted thing to say. Um, Now, whether we thought they were right or wrong, that reaction wasn't helpful. And what I see, the same sort of reaction happening whenever we take some sort of solidarity online against something that we don't like. And my fear is that this is what the Black Lives Matter movement may turn into, okay? I see some of the things that are posted, and it's not a question of whether it's right or wrong. Many of the times I agree with them. It is how will the other people react? And many times I shudder. I when Trump was elected, for example, all these people saying, "Oh, he's not my president. I hate this. Look how few people are actually happy about this." The famous photo of how many people turned up in the streets to celebrate Obama versus people who celebrated Trump. And the problem is, whenever we put stuff up like that on social media and media in general, There's someone out there who thinks differently, who feels attacked, right? And who feels vulnerable. Basically, uh, a reaction will come, a reaction that I don't like, okay? And this is what I fear, okay? And my question is, well, how can we express ourselves in a way that doesn't cause other people to react? Well, that's the question, really. And I try to offer a solution here. So, first things first, whenever we get people who really annoy us, who say things that are not only feel are wrong or don't agree with us, or sometimes just fundamentally morally wrong, like racist, say things or believe things that are racist, our first reaction is to say, wouldn't the world be better if, these other guys just weren't there? Okay? Wouldn't the world just be better if they weren't there? Now, that is a very tempting thought, but it does take us back to the darkest periods of human history. So I'm not even going to go there, all right? The next best thing is to say, well, wouldn't it be better if these people just thought differently? And in a sense, that's what we're going to do. So first thing, they're always going to be there, right? No matter what we think, these guys are they are not going away, okay? And funnily enough, that's exactly what they think about people like me or us, okay? We're both asking the same questions. The picture, the utopia of the world of, an all white people America or both of us are saying, hey, wouldn't it just be better if the other person wasn't there? And if we can't go down that route, wouldn't it just be better if they just thought like me, okay, or at least appreciated my views? And that's what we're trying to do. But then the problem is, it just leads us to express ourselves in ways that push the other people back. So rather than listening to the person who, expressed a grievance against the European Union about the accountability problem, rather than calling them, a bigot or racist or, xenophobic or something like that, instead I should have just said, hey, you know what? So why do you think this way? Why do you think there's no accountability? And if the arguments are right, then I would say something like, okay, this is good. Thank you for pointing this out. I just don't think Brexit is a solution. This is a way forward. It actually gives us both what we want, etc., etc. More with immigration, fine. I will admit there are problems with immigration. Every country has problems with immigration. Maybe this is too severe a reaction or something like that. There's something in philosophy called the principle of charity. And the principle of charity says that even if you want to break down your opponent's view, you have to understand it in a way that almost gets you to support it, right? You have to take their side first, okay? And what you're doing, at least outside the philosophy room, is you're giving the other person value, okay? That's one thing none of us do, whether you're pro-racism, anti-racism, pro-Trump, whatever. None of us do this, right? None of us go to the other person who thinks or believes different things and says, there's got to be some sort of a way in which I give you value. I can completely disagree with what you say, but I'm going to listen to you and give you value. Now, we can do this, I looked at Hillary Clinton's, campaign, and I saw, hey, Trump is appealing to a certain type of voter who's been left behind by globalization. Come on, Hillary, just speak to them. Speak to these people who've been left behind and talk to them and say, you're going to answer their question. You're going to make shifts in the economy that direct jobs towards, say something that says that you care, that you give them value. It's almost as if everyone has decided, no, we're not even going to do that. We're just going to hope that these guys convert our way of thinking, and we're going to do it as aggressively as possible. That is not the solution, and that's how we end up in the mess that I think we're in. And people, being right or wrong doesn't matter anymore. People just want to express themselves, and violence is perhaps the best way, and the best way to make your point heard. Unfortunately, okay. So in giving someone else value, you take away the incentive for them to do that, right? So please, if you're gonna join Black Lives Matter, then it should be done in a way that says, Are there people who are grieving about changing culture, changing race relations that they feel is persecuting them? The answer would be something like, yeah, they actually just don't value black lives in the same way. Now, if someone came to me as a black man and said, I actually don't think black people are as valued as white people or whatever, I would actually say, as a philosopher, right, please give me your reasons. Why do you think? I actually don't think they will have enough reasons. They won't be there, right? However, that would be better than me ignoring them and making them feel persecuted, right? I will say, I think you are wrong for these reasons, but I'll do it in a way that at least gets them to express themselves. That's what philosophy can do, right? Philosophy is a neutral platform, okay? It is not an ideology. It is a toolkit, right? It is no respecter of certain types of beliefs. It will shred anything down, right? Whether you're atheist or theist, whether you're left or right, or whatever. It is a platform which we can all ask questions about ourselves and show our opponent that we are doing this about ourselves and invite them to do the same about themselves. What you want is for the racist to look at themselves and say, do I have the right belief? Okay. Philosophy offers that platform. Okay. I can go to a racist and say, right, I've asked myself these questions about my belief, my way of thinking, whatever name you call it, liberal or whatever. And yes, here I think these are some problems with it, and I will admit that. And hey, if you're right wing, there's some good things to right wing. There's some things it gets right. It's not totally wrong, and I appreciate and I give you value for these things. If I go to someone who's right wing and says this, that changes everything. I'm not attacking them. I'm not dissing them. I am not taking value away from them. Then we can meet and say, right, what do you think about my views? Do you see good things about my views? And maybe there's some things about your own way of thinking that perhaps you haven't appreciated, just the way that I've been honest about mine. That's what philosophy can do. Okay, it's so unsexy and it's unjuicy. We want justice. We want to take this guy to court. We want to, right? It's not aggressive in that sense, right? Philosophy is actually fundamentally very relational. Okay, it is one of the best ways in which you can bring people who are diametrically opposed and give them a neutral platform. Which is why I wrote that book. Okay, I actually wrote that book because of the rise of Islamic extremism and people's reaction to it, which was quite violent and aggressive. And I said, whoa, guys, if you do things this way, they will react, okay? If you keep dissing, right-wing people because you've got your first black president, they will react, many years later. If you keep, 10 years after Britain had the most pro-Europe prime minister in Tony Blair, we voted for Brexit, okay? Do we solve the fundamental problems by just expressing ourselves? I think there is another level we can go to that's actually unifying. And that's what I think philosophy can do. I think it is more fundamental. I would welcome your views and your reaction. Of course, you're very, very welcome to disagree. It's what we do in philosophy. We disagree with each other, not because we hate each other, but because people who disagree and play the devil's advocate, that's just one of these refining tools that make sure that at the end we're all closer to truth. So please do let me know what you think. Otherwise, I hope you're keeping safe. Look out for the next dancing videos and take care. Mwah.